everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are back with another Twitter thread. Today we're talking about legacy support. So often in a desperate attempt to get people to play garbage pieces of cardboard from decades ago, Konami will release a piece of legacy support that is so unbelievably busted, it could only have been dreamed up by the custom card manufacturers on reddit.com. Then the card is released and it does nothing. It flops. Absolutely unplayable in every conceivable universe, despite the fact that the text on the card is broken to hell. Today I want to talk about some examples of those cards and why they weren't able to convert. And I'm going to begin with this one, Bujin Torifune. Bujin was a playable deck for a long period of time, and this is an effect that anyone would want. It summons 2 named monsters from your deck, doesn't negate their effects, doesn't lock you at all, but for some reason, it just wasn't enough. And it's not like there's not playable Bujin monsters. Like the Bujin Link is really strong, the 3-mat Bujin rank 4 is extremely good, but this wasn't enough to keep up with other decks in the format. So it just faded into nothingness despite being Rescue Rabbit with 55 million upsides. Let's see what you all came up with. Every single Fire Fist support card that came out in FIGA. If you've read these cards, it is boggling to the mind that this deck was not playable in the wake of these releases. The links specifically, Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Eagle and what's the other one? Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Dire, put up the other Brotherhood of the Fire Fist card right now, are functionally custom cards. I mean, let me read you a line of text on this. Included in an archetype that has powerful effects balanced around the fact that you have to send fire formations to the graveyard. You can activate Fire Fist monsters' effects without sending fire formation cards to the graveyard. And keep in mind, this deck has like a ton of mechanisms to almost infinitely spam dudes and end on really impressive link boards. And they have layered protection. Cards like Sinto are like counter traps for an archetype that otherwise builds powerful monster boards as well. Kevin's got a good one. For those unfamiliar with this card's effect, it reads, your opponent discards an effect failure or activates an infinite impermanence and it becomes the end phase. Yeah, this sure has a lot of text on it. Too bad, I'm never going to have to read it. The fact you can't misplay and imperm the wrong card against this deck is hilarious. This is the only thing in the deck that doesn't have targeting protection, and it's the only thing that you would want to have the targeting protection. Abyss 100% correct. Oh my god. Crawler was such a cool archetype, and when I first read Soma, I was so excited. It's got Deus Ex Crawler, which is easily summonable off of the effects of the floating crawlers, which you can set up with a mind meld, and Soma is just like summon 2 crawlers from deck and also itself, and it just wasn't enough. For the former, Deus Ex Crawler did see a little bit of experimentation in like Orcust piles, and that was fine. I appreciate that. It was a little frustrating that a deck that wasn't Crawler was better at making the Crawler boss. But for Soma, the frustrating part was that it came out in a little set called Pote and immediately was thrown into the pile of cards that weren't sprites and weren't Tearlaments and weren't Mathmex, alongside a whole host of other archetypes like Melfi that just never saw the light of day. It is interesting that Mayakashi got 2 very wanted cards, a Link 3 and a literal trap that just says you win the game if you resolve it. But the only place the trap has seen play is in Beatrice rollback piles, and I'll go further, really hasn't seen a lot of play in those either. It was expected to, but it turns out that's not good enough. God, there was like 1 week where Mayakashi was a competitor for the additional engine that you would play in Eldritch. Damn, that was fun. Not good, but fun. The new Altergeist support was pretty promising. I mean, it does do a lot for the strategy. It opens up a new avenue of play for the deck in that now it can do this like combo-y link climb thing with Malwisp and Pook and shit like that. But while the resource loop is cool, it is not as robust as the resource loops found in other decks. And unfortunately, one of the things I think the legacy support for Altergeist did is it robbed the deck of a bit of its uniqueness. Frequently in Altergeist, you would be able to take games because opponents weren't prepared to have to contest the back row, but the new support like just gave it monster combo lines. And opponents were like, oh cool, monster combo, I can beat that. Mutant really reads like an apology more than a piece of legacy support. Like a, we're sorry. We know Mutant should have worked like this in the first place. Why does it cost you life points to get these out? The Girgia structure support. Can you imagine coming off the heels of like being one of the best decks, gets a structure deck, and then 0 playables in that fucking structure? It's crazy. Girgia Gear, Gigan, XG, not enough. Speedroid, a perfect example. They gave Speedroid double E-Telly, Armageddonite, and Pot of Prosperity. There's an entire community labbing this deck to oblivion. It was all for nothing because Konami has printed 1 good wind boss monster in 8 years, and they just banned it. This archetype's legacy is going to be, it's pretty good alongside Cash Tier. In what world is Crystal Wing bad? this world. The Arcana Knight cards, absolutely correct. Joker's Wild is good. Thunderspeed Summon is all right. Joker's Knight is crazy strong. Joker's Straight I have ideological problems with. I think that he's at least bisexual, but I understand the vision. You are correct, though, that at the end of the day, you are asking people to play a deck that includes at minimum 3 normals. And the bar for how good a card has to be is super high. So you could make these cards do Cold Fusion, and I would still cringe sleeving up a King's Knight. This deck goes crazy in Balatro, though. That's true. I was about to tear in a Rycape for saying Phantom Quartz, which made an FDK that was playable for multiple formats, tiered, if not one of the best decks. But they're actually talking about the Pote support. Phantom Quartz was an insane piece of support that pushed Gem Knight to a YCS topping deck, and then the new support in Pote just sucked. I know they wanted to support going second instead of FDKing, but they could have done better. Wow, I forgot that it took them like 8 tries to get Tenpai right as a deck that can OTK. Yeah, this is 100% correct. Gladiator Beasts were insane back in the day. With Arc V and Battle Beast came this monstrosity of a card and these silly monsters with the gates. That should be enough to put them in the spotlight, but no, it was a failure, and even after that, they remain bad. I think it has a couple of like PPG tops at the very beginning. It's really frustrating for a number of reasons. For me, the most of which is that I cannot believe they would do this to my boys. Gladiator Beast is, in my opinion, like one of the most iconic Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes of all time. One of the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes, period, to see widespread success. Playable for like 6 years. And it did something that no other deck did. It used the battle phase as a combo starter. How cool was that? You'd fill your deck full of singletons that did things that were like corner case good, and then you would be able to pivot between them, toolboxing with the battle phase. And what did they do for the legacy support? They give them a series of cards that say, actually, you'll never have to go to the battle phase at all. Here's a bunch of cards that combo in main phase 1 just like every other piece of fucking slop in the game. I can't believe they put this text on Test Panther. Let me read this to you. Special summon one Gladiator Beast monster with a different original name from your deck. This is treated as a special summon by a Gladiator Beast monster's effect. Just put on the Link monster, you know what, and pretend it's the battle phase. Fuck it. You know, the thing that made these cards unique and iconic, throw it out the window in the name of increased playability. And then it increased the playability to a point where it wasn't even meta. Hoping these 3 get their second shot of life when Lancia, Georgius, and Mirror Master come to town. These are so frustrating. Every one of these is an incredibly powerful card. Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier is like this cool non-targeting card that just eats the board. General Wayne is macro. I mean, he's really strong. He's a free special. Revealer, like I was playing with in Plunder Patrol, because there's just so much incredible strength locked in this card in terms of playmaking potential. And Hexa is just an incredibly powerful mechanism by which to bin almost an infinite amount of Ice Barrier cards and access the Synchro Toolbox. But what you are looking at is the entirety of the playable Ice Barrier line. It's really surprising to me that if an Archetypes playstyle has just been power crept by the linear passage of time, almost nothing can bring it back from the brink, as evidenced by these unbelievable cards that just did nothing. All right, I know you all want to watch the outro where everyone's wrong. Roll the clips. Farfa, what the fuck are you talking? 251 likes on this? Cherubini made entire formats. I don't know. I don't really think I can get mad about an archetypal card forcing people's deck construction to contain archetypal monsters, and those decks were tier 1. Like, what the fuck? This card was in a meta strategy. Dragon Link played this card. Despite this existing, the Fleur archetype has 0 tops ever. What the fuck is the Fleur archetype, dog? Hex, I love you, but this is so wrong. What the fuck are you talking about? This has been meta multiple times. How could you believe this? How could you believe this? Melodious is playable, then why are you posting this? Tiered multiple times. Harp was banned when this card came out. This card has tops. Hundreds of them. As a Noble Knight card, they failed. What is the number one thing these cards were used for? Noble Knight!